Divine, all blessed, peace and love, joy and prosperity, revelation and station. You are now sitting live with the Divine Prince, Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, author and advisor, Elagoon Oloye, Hoodoo Obeya Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo, world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and it is my personal ever-living reality. It is crucial to the foundation of my understanding, my being, my walk, my works, my ultimate demonstration, challenge with. Here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth, divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine, all blessed reality. And what is Ashe, Asheo, and all divine prince, Thai Potions, and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeya life path and journey. Passing down the great Obeya stick, go back in between the two, 143, number 1 on your telephone keypad. This will alert me that there is a caller in queue. I will then unmute your mic and bring you into the conversation. Of course, in both platform requests, in all capital letters in the chat box, the key family. For those of you who maybe don't celebrate these holidays, for those who might have some feeling about these holidays. Now, I'm still going to be revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo secrets and recipes. We're going to talk about the moon calendar. We're going to talk a little Osei Ifa. We're going to talk a little bit more about winter solstice. And today I'm going to introduce another component to that, Yuletide, which is a period that runs several days, 11 days, I believe, after winter solstice into January, coinciding with that time period that I said that the veils are thinnest. We are in our emotions, we are in our feelings, we are in our flesh during this particular season, the most, more so than any other season in the year. And that has both negative and positive connotations. Don't just hear darkness, don't just hear the negatives, don't just hear about the gems. Indeed, we come together, we celebrate, we acknowledge, we see people we haven't seen in some time. We acknowledge people who we have not acknowledged in some time. Often people, places, and things worthy of our acknowledgement each and every day of the year, worthy of our energy each and every day of the year. We are indeed worthy of their light, their love, their energy each and every day of the year. But the veils are thinnest during this season, leading up to the numbers at 911 would confirm with me. I believe the numbers at the emergency centers across our nation would confirm with me. Suicide rates, traffic accidents related to alcohol, and made up, be rooted up, take your cleansing bath, do and know to do in terms of spiritual protection, spiritual to growth, to being able to power through strongholds and power through negative occurrences to gain the blessing, to gain the gift that's always embedded, which is why I say all is a blessing. But you can't see it. If you can't see it and you don't know it, then you can't manifest that thing. What's $1 million inheritance that you don't know anything about, that you have no awareness of? So indeed, it's the solar eclipse that's happening on December 26th. Many of you may not be aware because it's not particularly happening in our region of the world. But during this time of Yule and Christmas and Kwanzaa, December 26, 2019, an annular solar eclipse will occur. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between Earth and the sun, thereby totally or partially obscuring the sun for a viewer on Earth. An annular, ANNULAR solar eclipse occurs when the moon's apparent diameter is smaller than the sun's, blocking most of the sun's light, called like an annulus, ANNULUS, an annulus. In mathematics, an annulus is a ring-shaped object, a region bound by two concentric circles. And an annular eclipse appears as a partial eclipse over a region of the Earth thousands of kilometers wide. The annularity will be visible in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, North Mariana Islands, and Guam. Population centers will include places like Singapore, Batam, Tanjung Pinang, many lands and nations we don't pronounce every day in English. Dumay, Johor Bahru, Kuching will all narrowly miss this annular path. And so there will also be that added benefit of this solar eclipse. And we sort of think of eclipse being sort of specific to a region or specific to the people who can see the eclipse, and indeed they experience the direct energy of the eclipse. But anything that happens in our skies, anything that happens in the air, anything that happens in our consciousness, anything that happens in our imagination trickles down, has an effect to every other organ, every other aspect of the universe, of creation. So just because something happens on the other side of the planet that we can't see, that we can't hear, that we don't directly feel the effect of, doesn't mean that it does not. Those of us who follow math, who follow numerology, who follow astrology, geomancy, who follow all the correlating parts to what makes up the dynamic, magical universe in which we live in. I did a previous show in most recent days about the winter solstice and sort of our narrow focus regionally on the winter solstice because we live north of the equator. And so we experience this tilting of the sun in terms of our four-dimensional season: fall, winter, spring, and summer. And so we have that sort of dramatic change that's manifest in our weather, in the snow, in the rain, etc., that's accentuated, accented, in my opinion, during this winter solstice celebration in the regions of the world that celebrate that. And inquiring minds want to know. My own natural inquisitiveness wanted me to understand then what is happening on the rest of the planet when this is happening. And so December 1st is the first day of summer, I believe, in South Africa. And as we move closer to the equator, south of the equator, south of us, and then further away from South Africa, but closer to the equator, I talked about the presence of ancestral ceremonies, indigenous ceremonies to many cultures closer to the equator that zeroed in on procreation, on fertility, on the fruitfulness of a crop, having just exited one rainy season and now coming into a time of great sun, great heat, great food, great produce, and great food and grain and nut production in that part of the world. And so that happens seasonally at a different time for South Africa. So I went back again to examine Christmas Eve, Christmas, and the 12 days of Christmas, and then how that then played out. First, from a more indigenous perspective, what predates Christmas, what the Christians now call pagan, and how does that then translate to the rest of the world, who's not experiencing the same seasonal change at the same time, but who might have connections to, similarities to, patterns that I could pick up. So I went back to Yule, or the Yuletide season. Of course, my Walgreens would come right in the middle of my broadcast. So please give me a moment. I'm going to put it back. Please bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. All right. My sincere apologies. I greatly appreciate your patience, your love, your support. Let me tell you, there's nothing like grocery delivery from Walmart. I'd much rather have it delivered than to be inside the chaos that's happening right now. Um, at your local grocery store for groceries, just delivered to your door with no parking, no transit uh, fee, no taxi cab, no nothing. Just delivered to your door. So if you have not tried it, this is not a advertisement for Walmart, but I guess it is. Produce is great. The products is great. It's high quality stuff. It's not what you would expect, and in many cases, the prices are cheaper if you get the delivery from Walmart. So I was talking about the season, the December 26th, and many of you already know December 26th is the not only represent sort of that dark period where we don't see the moon. We know that's there, but we don't see the moon, and we go into sort of the recesses of ourself, of consciousness, the incubation period, if you will, of an idea, of a project, of a ritual work. You want to do that. You want to bury the past in the next 48 hours. You want to prepare to illuminate and give light to the things that you want to further grow, that you want to further move forward as we move into 2020. This is the last new moon of the year. This is the last darkest night, not far from the longest darkest night, which is winter solstice in our hemisphere. And so the opportunity to bury those things that need to be buried, to bind those things that need to be bound, to tie down those things and secure those things that need to be tied down and secured, and then prepare for the return of light on December 28th, waxing crest, where the light begins to reemerge, begins to reappear. Today is the last of the least little bit of light that we can gain from the moon, the waning crescent, where only 4% of the moon's light is visible. Tomorrow, the 26th, which is the new moon proper, and then the 27th will be the darker of nights, and then 28th, 29th, 30, and moving forward, we'll begin to see more and more light, making our way into the first full moon of 2020. It's a great magical time. 2020 and the turning of decades are always a great magical time. This is regardless of what your religion is, or your spirit belief is, or your cultural nuance is, or your lack of belief is. This is something that has been documented and charted globally since the beginning of man. Our awareness of the sky, the stars, the planets, and their movement, and then that correlation with what goes on Earth, what we experience on Earth. The new moon will be in Capricorn, by the way. Um, we are in Scorpio right now in this waning crescent, and we'll be moving into Sagittarius in the coming days, another sign representing transformation from one thing to another. We say half man or half beast, or the minotaur or the centaur, but it's about transformation from one thing to another, from our animal nature to a spirit nature, from our animal nature to a human nature to a higher spirit or godlike nature. And then the new moon bringing in Capricorn, which I always found to be a little bit alien. I think there's a deeper connection to the sky that is under research as it relates to Capricorn and our relationship to Capricorn and to the sign of Capricorn. I feel there's some alien intervention with the energy and the vibration that resonates with the sign of Capricorn. And then we'll be moving into Aquarius and then Pisces for New Year's Eve. So for those who effect of both light and darkness, sunlight and moonlight on our consciousness, on our meditative practices, on our ritual and spiritual practices, then we are aware of the cycles that are transpiring right now as we move into 2020 as somewhat powerful and even to some degree volatile these signs might be viewed as. I anticipate great change and some sort of great upheaval in January. It may show up as weather, but I'm leaning more towards some sort of political in our hemisphere. Request capital letters in the live chat box. Kiona will assist me in seeing your questions and responding to them in a timely manner. Blog Talk Radio, please as well type your questions in the chat box if you wish. My callers who are listening, I certainly do appreciate and love your support and your attention. If you have, and I will be more than happy to assist you. Kiona, December 26th solar eclipse that starts in Saudi Arabia and are able to be seen in the Asia region. Yeah, that's what I said. Jennifer Anderson, you're asking, do empaths seem to feel this dark period stronger than others? Absolutely, empaths feel this more than others. I'm organizing my thoughts. There are many reasons why. First, I believe when you say dark period, we could say dark period, dark energy, dark matter. There are many layers to darkness and what darkness is. This first, so I'm going to start with Jennifer. I often spoke of the veils being thinnest during this season. We often associate the thinning of the veils or the veils being the thinnest somehow at midnight on Halloween. Halloween might indeed be the start of a seasonal electromagnetic solar lunar shift that happens with the planet every year as the plants respond, as nature responds to the shifting of light from one region to another. So the veils are thinnest, in my opinion. Much of life, vegetation, plant life in the north is now either dying off or going underground to then be reborn or renewed, if you will, in the spring. And that's sort of embedded in the ideas of winter solstice and some of why we acknowledge winter solstice. Another aspect to that is, Jennifer, that we are experiencing the longest nights of the year as well during this period. Long, cold nights, particularly if you're thinking of regions of Canada, regions of Europe that are furthest north from the equator. This indeed shifts the closer you are to the equator. Fall and winter ain't the same thing for New Orleans as it is for St. Louis, Chicago, Michigan, Boston, and other parts Canada of the northern hemisphere. So there are other elements to that darkness. I believe, Jennifer, that empaths do perceive that energy at a greater depth, at a greater level. Because anytime you go into the dark region, even if it's just closing your eyes and going into meditation, you can be still. You are limiting some of the active five senses that we have that are often constantly going. What we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel. And so it being quiet or even going into this darker season, this heavier season of energy that is often masked by joy or false shows of joy, happiness or false demonstrations of happiness. An example, in my opinion, of a false demonstration are our TV commercials, for instance. You sit during this holiday season and it's commercial after commercial after commercial. We know, and me being a professional actor, being a cultural performer, I get it. You got actors, performers that are getting paid to demonstrate a certain thing, to look a certain way, to sell you a certain product. But many of you would agree with me, it's uber intense during Christmas. I mean, they start hitting you with it literally from Halloween on, the selling of product. Now, it's more intense for me and for many others during Christmas because now you're adding the extra layer of not just we want to sell you this product, but we want to sell you this idea of happiness, of these made up families. And of course they're mixing and matching and experimenting with the diversity advancements that we've made at the cultural level in some parts of the world. And so that's sort of artificially now manufactured in these commercials. And Ellen has made a big deal about that. Some people are protesting Hallmark because of their demonstration of that. So, Jennifer, the veils are thinnest, and in that thinning of veils, you're allowing jinn, demons, dark matter, which is still understood even at the scientific level, but then also the jinn that are associated with our feeling and our sympathy to these symbols and these signs that are being used to sort of manipulate in pop culture. Even animals. Have you noticed the commercials have become extremely dramatic and dogs are made to cry and look pathetic and really pull at your heartstring. Sad children, at a particular time of year, sort of coax the extra dollar, to sort of coax the extra donation, to sort of remind you, to sort of give. Things that, as I said at the top of this show, we should do every day, all year. representing these various religions and spiritual practices and mores and moralities that we all say that we stand on, integrity and morality and helping thy neighbor and buying black and all the things that we say. Christmas and this season, that's intensified, Jennifer, during this doorway, this open portal. And I've now found a footprint that extends beyond, because if it's true, then it has to extend beyond just, I went back to Yuletide. And Yuletide historically is observed by the Germanic people. Scholars have connected the original celebrations of the Yule to the wild hunt, the god Odin, and the pagan Anglo-Saxon Modranit. Later, departing from its pagan roots, Yule underwent Christianized reformulation. And basically, as Christians conquered with the sword and with the cross and with the Bible, they also appropriated and swallowed up what they would call pagan and what we would call indigenous world traditions, practices, and of course their symbols, signs, and sacred places and spaces, resulting in the term Christmastide. And many present-day Christmas customs and traditions, such as the Yule log, the Yule goat, the Yule boar or pig, the Yule singing, and others stem from the pagan Yule traditions. Terms with etymological equivalents to Yule are still used in Nordic countries and Estonia to describe Christmas and other festivals occurring during the winter holiday season. And today, Yule is celebrated in what is called heathenry, other forms of neo-paganism, and modern day Satanism. Now, heathenry is not just the word that we associate heathen in a Christian context. Heathenry is also termed heathenism, contemporary Germanic paganism, or Germanic neo-paganism, and is a modern pagan religion. Scholars of religious study classify it as a new religious movement development in Europe during the early 20th century. So these signs and these symbols have always been present before the arrival of Islam and Christianity, and then are either completely crushed and destroyed under one religion or tradition, or appropriated and reapplied under the other tradition, and it's now passed down to us as Christmas. So this energy that we feel, Jennifer, this dark energy, these dark spirits, these dark moods are not just because of sort of our Western holiday and all of its Western attachments of greed and consumption, of buying and shopping, but also have deep roots in these indigenous traditions and these pagan traditions that have sort of been trampled in the process to either be crushed and eliminated, or then appropriated and weaved into this new thing that we call Christianity, and then creates dark matter or moves around dark matter in a way that indeed affects the empath to a greater degree. I think sometimes when without outside stimulation, I can get a clearer vision. I'm often asked about virtual reading over the phone, reading via Skype or WhatsApp, and what are the implications of that? And there are two ideas to that. One is, can you truly connect with a person, much like we do in traditional Ifa or traditional Voodoo, where you are physically on the mat, on the ground with the person, and you're making that energetic connection. But in a virtual reading, much like prayer, do you believe you can pray for someone remotely in another city, another place, another country, and have that affect them? Can you pray for your imprisoned loved ones and have them receive that and have them respond to that? So reading to some degree is the same. And so the removal of stimuli, which in some cases would create altered states of reality, when our stimuli is how much light we get, the temperature is being controlled. Those forms of stimuli affect our ability to perceive, to pick up, to then respond to. The empath indeed is going to have a greater degree of sensitivity than to that energy. And then it's being masked, Jennifer, by the false signs, the happiness, the gift giving, the joy, the sort of the spirit of Christmas. Just forget about your pains. It's Christmas. Forget about your sorrows. It's Christmas. Sometimes it's directly said. Sometimes it's implied. Sometimes it's just weaved into the scenario. Some of us respond viscerally to the lights and smells that are activated during this season. Pine and cinnamon and food cooking of various familiarity with seasons, anise and clove and things that speak volumes to the root worker, to the conjure man or woman, but have been somehow mixed in to cooking and recipes and flavor and holidays and seasons. And it's now sort of this Western thing that we do and don't always connect and interact with that deeper vein of connection there that is deeply occult, that is deeply pagan, that is deeply rooted in astrology, that is deeply rooted in our position on the planet and our relationship to the sun, the moon, the planets at any given time throughout the year. So empaths indeed feel dark energy, dark matter, these dark seasons, I believe, at a more sensitive and elevated degree than during other periods. And two, people who might not quite be empathic, to feel it at a higher degree. We have a higher elevation of depression and suicide and negative feelings and conflicts in families and domestic violence calls during the holiday season. It's easy to say it's financially related. Indeed, people break the bank, break the budget, spend money they don't have, trying to impress your friends, trying to impress your family, sometimes just trying to make your kids happy and impress your kids. And so you're buying things that you might not be able to afford or way outside your budget, or to impress your boss and the coworkers at the office party, to not look like you're outside the step of what's norm in your community, however the holiday is celebrated in your community. So there are then all these other artificial feelings that are added on to what's already happening in the sky and in the astrology of this particular time of year. And then add a full moon to it and other astrological anomalies. And indeed, not only are the empaths going to be more sensitive to it, but so too will people who don't generally find themselves to be empathic. And you add a little bit of weed to it and a little bit of alcohol. And listen, I don't mean the person who smokes weed regularly. I'm talking about the person who might not smoke weed throughout the year, but it's Christmas, who might not have a cocktail throughout the year, but it's New Year's, who might not, go out to a lot of parties, go out to a lot of bars, go out to a lot of social-like events, but it's the holiday season. And so you might have that drink, or you might step outside your diet and have, that sugary treat, or that food that's normally taboo in your Odoo, or in your life path. And so it's easy for us to now be exposed to not just what's already happening and the dynamics of the environment, but now these doorways that we ourselves are opening, letting down our guard, inviting our family in that we haven't seen all year, inviting friends into either our space physically or literally, that we normally don't have a social sit down with. You work with every day and you do business together, and you're professional, but now you're sharing champagne, and a little bit rum, and things can go awry. We all have stories of things going awry at the office party, but we think it's just the alcohol. We don't consider the astrology. We don't consider the season. We don't consider the emotional changes that some people are masking during this season. Everybody's not happy about Christmas. Everybody's not thrilled about Christmas. Everybody's not thrilled about this season. And so some people wear that on their sleeve. And then there are others who will mask that by work. I'm going to mask it through work. I'm going to work all the way through up until Mardi Gras Day, and I do so every year. And some of my closest friends and advisors have suggested it. It's a little bit crazy, and to some degree denies my own humanity. This is a season where I don't sleep a lot. I don't eat a lot, while everyone else is eating outside their their diet. I'm not eating, in a room full of food. I'm not drinking. I'm not socializing, because as an empath and spiritualist, Jennifer Anderson, I'm hypersensitive during this time. I'm the quintessential sober driver, because I'm too busy watching the activity of everything else that's going on. And I'm often amped up in this season. The anxiety level is high. And sometimes it's my own stuff, but then I'm also carrying other people's stuff, the stuff of my godchildren, the stuff of my clients who are in the struggle, the stress of the urgent care request that comes right at Christmas, that comes right at New Year's, that comes right in the middle of Kwanzaa, that comes in the middle of the night. So it's a sensitive time, and a time when many people find themselves open. Greetings, Danette. Greetings, Imani Sankofa. Anybody that I've missed, please forgive me. It's a lot going on. And Blog Talk Radio in the chat, also forgive me because I don't come back and look as often to check on your questions and or comments. Also, remember, you can call in, listen in at 845-277-9143. From either platform, you can continue to watch me on YouTube Live, but pick up your cell phone, pick up your telephone, call me at 845, Skype me at 845-277-9143, and I can bring your voice in, your question and or comment in to the conversation. Please do not call my phone during the broadcast with your questions or comments, unless you intend to be on speaker. And in that case, you should at least text me first so that I know that you're calling in to participate. Jennifer, I see your comment and it's in all capital letters, so I'm going to read it out loud. Jennifer says that my mood feels very low for no reason. And she's glad that I've educated her on this. Many of you are going to feel, and I say you, because if you're in this audience, then you are in this family of people who are either psychics, empaths, spiritualists, healers, or on the journey of learning, or curious, or maybe not sure where you fit into this, but you're exploring. Maybe you're a voyeur. Maybe you're a friend of me. It's all good to me. But the idea that you're here suggests some connection to the subject, some connection to the topic. So yes, it's very likely, very probable, Jennifer, that not only are you empathic, and if you're empathic, then there are obviously other signs that we can look at throughout the year that would be a sign that you're an empath. How do you respond to pet commercials, dog commercials, lost children commercials, murder, horror? How do you respond to um, the struggles of your friends, your loved ones, um, their needs when they approach you? Are you easier to lend? Uh, are you easier to borrow? Those are things that I have to look at in determining who is an empath. And what physical signs do you experience in association with feeling? Do you read in colors? Do you see things and feel or experience colors? Do certain sounds, do certain vibrations, do certain people project a certain sound, color, or energy at you? Now, some of this might be an extension of my own personal Asperger's syndrome, which is an adult form of autism. Um, but many of these are also signs of uh, empaths and their response to energy. An empath typically cannot turn off a response to certain types of energy, so that would transcend just this season. Uh, but an empath, indeed, within this season, could feel low energy, drains on their energy, and even heightened energy because you are now carrying that energy that you're being exposed to and that which you allow and can control within your own domain, within your own environment, within your workspace, your home space, your peer group. And then, of course, there's that which we learn skills and gifts to deal with because we have no choice but to be exposed to that person, place, or thing. It might be the family member, it might be a partner, it might be a particular location, like your job. And so this is a place where you have to go into and be exposed now to this energy. So we learn to cleanse, we learn to purge, we learn to purify, we learn to meditate, we learn to be conscious, almost like being lucid in your dream state, but being conscious in your waking activities. And you're distracted already with so much that's going on during the holiday season. For many of you, depending on your life and how you respond to this season. Some of us, it's just another day on the map. Um, and, and we don't have that family reaction, that interaction, that peer group interaction, the gift giving. I don't have a gift. I ain't seen a gift. I ain't discussed gifts. you know, I got a tree, but it's a live potted tree. It's a Norwegian pine. It's got some pretty bows on it, but nothing Christmas. I do Kwanzaa. I do acknowledge Kwanzaa, and my friends who do acknowledge and celebrate, you know, uh, Christmas, they acknowledge and celebrate Christmas within the confines of that space. But for many of us, it's just another day on the map. And so, as an empath, Jennifer, I'm then that much more focused on my job, and then of course that includes the energy. One of the reasons I'm doing this show through the holidays is for the persons who don't have anything to do, don't have anywhere else to be, are present here at noon, and at whatever time it is in your place of the world while you're listening and are viewing this show in archive. It's why I continue to do this show for those who are sensitive to this energy, who don't who don't understand that this isn't unique to you, that there are others who are sharing this, experiencing this, and there are things that you can do and should do to protect your energy, to elevate your energy during this time so that you aren't overburdened with the low feelings for no reason. I also suggest that you journal during this time so that you can gain some sort of pattern and clarity to the low energy environments, people, places, things, and there may be some connection there as well. I'm trying to scroll back to your question. Now I can't find it about the low energy. Oh, Jennifer Anderson, yeah. So you might want to keep a journal. That would also be a distraction to some of what's going on. Even if you're around your family or a great deal of events, you could still go in the bathroom, you could still go outside, you could still go in the car and journal and write down what you feel, what's happening, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're experiencing, and make some sort of connection there. Greetings, everyone who I haven't acknowledged. Greetings. The next question is Dark Soul Jua. You become a godchild of mine first by sending me an email request. Send me an email request to DivinePrince at houseofthedivineprince.com. I'm going to send you back a generic response. I send the same response to everybody. It's going to list several consultations that I do, not just the one that you're asking me about, because I said this to everybody. It's going to list all my consultations, and I do that for a reason. There's an order and a reason to all of my information. And a great deal of what happens in the future, I've already covered often in my first document to you. Even the thing that you can't predict that then comes later, it's in that email. So in that first email, it's going to be the layout of my divination, my basic divination, which is primarily tarot, but it's also my 30-minute divination, my complete divination, which is 150, and it's more of a 90-minute consultation and divination. And the divination that you're asking about is the ritual spell work, initiations. That is $300. That includes the actual fa divination, and then the information that comes along with that divination, and then the entryway into the process. Always started with the ancestors, then according to that divination, what deity, what loa, what orisha, and of course, along with your ancestral information, what lineage and what bloodline is going to be covered. And then we move your plan of initiation forward from there. So it starts with you sending me the email and having that that $300 ritual initiation divination done, and then you're officially my godchild, and then we move according to that plan that's laid out in the Odu's. The next question. Yeah, Imani saying, Kofa, I tend to stay away certain people, places, and things during this season, certain events. I will not attend during this season. Of course, I work. I do my work for myself, my godchildren, but I'm clear to do my own work, particularly during this time. To give you a itinerary, I get up with the ancestors. I acknowledge my ancestors. I feed my ancestors. Of course, my head, I move forward into my day, the spirits of the day, the powers that govern the day. I address that. And then usually in my schedule, my next thing is my email. And email can be like navigating a minefield for me. I never know what's going to be there. I never know what worry, what complaint, what concern a person might have about their life, their condition, their situation that might expose me now to energy there. Another place that I suggest and advise some of you all avoid until maybe after New Year's is the home page for Facebook, the home page for Instagram. The home page can be problematic for many people and particularly for your empaths. If you're going to be exposed to a political commentary, idea, rant, ignorance, the latest trending foolishness that's going to push any of your triggers, it's going to be on the homepage. You can't control to some degree what you're seeing or receiving on the homepage. Outside of, you limit who your friends are. Everybody does that to some degree. But once you reach 5,000 on Facebook or 1,000 on Instagram, now you've got a lot of friends who are posting stuff, who sometimes, or particularly in this season, get in their feelings, get in their own personal madness, and post stuff that, an hour later they delete, 2 days later they delete, but now it's there and you've consumed it and you've taken it into your spirit. So I also suggest that people be very wary of the homepage in social media during this time, to also, Imani Sankofa, stay away from people, places, things, energy, commentary that can show up as a trigger. I like that, certain daytime talk shows are running reruns right now because you already know what's happening. You already know what's going to be said. You already know what's foolish. It's going to jump out at you. I hope I'm addressing the questions in the comments. If I'm not, please, Kiona, my beloved moderator, please help me to get it together. Aquazi Kwan